Hello, dear viewers, and welcome back to another fun and exciting episode of This Week in Canada. My name is Roberto Wakerel Cruz. Lots to talk about in the news. How are you guys feeling? You guys enjoying this Canadian summer heat? It is definitely hot outside. I hope you have AC. I, of course, do not. Don't have air conditioning. I really wish I did. And I don't even get to sleep in and enjoy the summer days because it's like everyone in the city, if you live in a city, people wake up at 7 a.m., and they go to the alleyways. Montreal has a lot of alleyways. I'm sure other cities do too. And they like to get out a saw, a power saw, like a sawing table, and just cut wood for like 5 hours until noon. I don't know what's so important. I don't know what you guys are having to build. But yeah, it's really keeping me up in the morning. Anyhow, let's dive into the news because there is a weird thing I want to talk about, which is I'm white. Did you guys know I'm white? Apparently I'm white. I just found out I'm white, and I my dad is white, but I consider myself to be, Mexican by skin tone. I'm certainly Mexican by heritage. My mother was, of course, Mexican. So, but this is what I'm talking about here. We have a news article by the Trudeau government. Trudeau government says non-whites who are, quote, perceived as white are guilty of white privilege. So what this basically means is if you are brown, or Chinese or whatever, and you don't think that the world is a racist hellhole trying to work against you to make sure that you don't get a job, then you are benefiting from white supremacy and white privilege. Let's go into this article, which I wrote. Immigrants, refugees, and Citizens Canada has listed a definition of white privilege that states that it is not just those of European origin that benefit from the concept, but anyone who accepts the legacies of colonialism as normal, which it has been for a long time. The definition of white privilege in the glossary reads, quote, benefiting from unearned power, advantages, access, and or opportunities based on being white or being perceived as white. While white people are defined as belonging to any of the various peoples with light-colored skin, usually of European origin. The term has become an indicator less of skin color and more of an unquestioning acceptance of the legacies and ongoing practices of white supremacy and colonialism. Boy, the government sure is on fire with letting people know that they're racist. The glossary contains definitions for multiple terms, such as for the term ally to what it means to be racialized, which I guess I'm considered racialized. I can't tell you how much I hate the term racialized. It sounds like something that happened to me in an accident. It's like, oh, no, that person, yeah, they're racialized. Make sure you're aware of how they've been racialized. What? I've been racialized since I was born. It's not something. What does that mean? Everybody's a race, dumbass. On page 13, it reinforces the idea that one doesn't have to be white to benefit from white supremacy, stating, quote, racism against Indigenous peoples, Black people, and racialized groups has persisted over time. It exists to support, reinforce, and build upon the supremacy of one group over many. In our society, this is the elevation of the white people or settler groups. So if you're like Indian, new to Canada, or Chinese, or if you're like, old Irish man who was oppressed by the English and you weren't allowed into restaurants and stuff during the Troubles, and then you are a settler colonialist with white privilege. Doesn't matter where you come from in the world. In our society, this is the elevation of the white people or settler groups above everyone else in many areas of Canadian life. The inertia continues to be upheld by access, privilege, and indifference. Boy, they're really letting us, they're leaning into us this time, huh? They're really giving it to us, just like Rage Against the Machine at the Ottawa Blues Fest. Did you guys see that? Let's put it up on the screen. Rough segue there, and just a little flash warning if you're epileptic or photosensitive, just letting you know. Let's play the video. So this is Rage Against the Machine. They're in Ottawa. This is the blues festival that they do there. Wouldn't consider them blues, but it's all right. And they are protesting what is settler colonialism, saying settler colonialism is murder, putting up stats on Indigenous women being 16 times more likely than white women to be killed. Are we going to get into who's doing that? I don't know. And saying land back, which what a premise that is. Have we really thought that one out? What does land back mean? I actually need to do some research before I talk about it, because if you really just want the land back, it's like never going to happen. It's like saying, like unlimited vacation days. That's like me saying unlimited vacation days. It's just not going to happen. Going back to the article, again, in the next point, it states that colonialism through our immigration system has had an impact on Indigenous people. All right. Now, this is something I wanted to get into because, of course, Canada, we are so dependent on American news cycles that we can't think for ourselves. Anything that happens to us has to be viewed through an American lens. In fact, American news stories often impact our day-to-day lives. I mean, there was a shooting in Texas and Trudeau came out and banned handguns. I beg your pardon? So let's go into this little segment of the, I don't know what you call it, a pamphlet, a glossary, I suppose. The guide names George Floyd, listing his death as an incident that reflects the discrimination faced by, quote, many people and communities in Canada. Remember that guy, George Floyd, the Canadian George Floyd that was killed by a Canadian police officer? What the hell are you on about? Didn't happen. It was in Minnesota. So here's the quote I'm talking about. Throughout our history and still today, far too many people and communities in Canada and around the world face systemic racism and racial discrimination. The murder of George Floyd on May 25th, 2020, and the tragic treatment of Joyce Echaquan on September 28, 2020, and the rise of anti-Asian attacks in Canada have highlighted the impacts of systemic racism on Black, Indigenous, and racialized peoples. All right, so the Joyce Echaquan one, fair. That was pretty bad. What are you gonna say about that? Indigenous woman being bullied by nurses till she died. Yeah, pretty rough. George Floyd did not die in Canada. I don't even understand why he's being put in the pamphlet. How is that an indicator of the troubles being faced as a part of day-to-day Canadian life? It isn't. Very weird. But I guess if you guys are going to welcome me to the club, thank you for having me. I never thought I would be white. I want to thank my dad, who is white. And I guess thank you to the government of Canada for designating me as a benefactor of white privilege. Kind of strange, don't you think? Anyhow, let's move on to not racial related news. Race is so boring to me, man. Like, can we talk about anything else than race? It's like so uninteresting. It's all been played out. It's like something a preschooler does. It's like, ooh, the color. Oh, look at the color. Yeah, the color. Okay. All right. Pierre Poilievre is skipping the debate. There is a third Conservative debate because the last one was such a disaster. I don't know if you really remember how bad that one was. The moderator sucked. And they had like paddles in this weird format where you only got to raise your paddle like 3 times. So Poilievre said, hey, look, we told you guys the last debate was going to suck. All right. It did suck. I don't have to do another debate. He's facing a $50,000 fine. Of course, I would like to see Poilievre go up on stage because I like to watch these things, and it's going to be rather boring if both Patrick Brown, who wasn't that interesting in the first place, but what, it's just going to be Jean Charest shitting on like Roman Baber, which, great. I like both those guys enough, but not as leader of the Conservatives. But like, I'm not going to sit there and watch them duke it out when obviously Pierre Poilievre, in my opinion, has it on lock, barring a disaster. Unless something really big comes out, then I think Poilievre has it in the bag. So Poilievre did come out and said in a statement that he was going to miss it because of, this is what they said, it was not the campaign's fault that the party's Edmonton debate was widely recognized as an embarrassment. Candidates were given ping pong paddles to hold up when they wanted to speak. It was more of a game show than a debate. Yeah, I do agree. Personally, I guess not too much to add on that one. I mean, if Patrick Brown is gone and Pierre Poilievre is not there, I wouldn't even bother watching. What is Jean Charest going to say that's going to blow your mind? Justin Trudeau, here's another piece of news. Really just going through it. It's the Canadian summer. There's not much politics going on. So squeeze me if I'm running a little low on news. Justin Trudeau's flights being logged. He doesn't want his flights to be logged anymore. This is pretty weird. I would say his flights should be logged. So let's read this headline from the National Post together. Ottawa asks FAA to block military planes, including PM and Governor General flights, from flight trackers. Citing security concerns, the Canadian government has asked U.S. civil aviation authorities to filter Canadian military flights from popular online flight tracking services, a move that has complicated but not eliminated the ability to track the Prime Minister's flights habits. As soon as this article came out, I knew it was Brian Pacifume for one. He posts these great stories whenever the Prime Minister's flying around. It's like he does it on his spare time. What he also does on his spare time, This is a journalist from the Toronto Star I'm talking about, Brian Passafume. He gets so much cream cheese on his bagel. He went viral, like, independently of his journalism career because he got this much cream cheese on his bagel. Can we just show that picture? Hilarious. Who is eating that much cream cheese on a bagel? Hopefully not him all the time, because that is, I mean, that's just deadly amounts of cream cheese. The Department of National Defense spokesperson Daniel Leboutillier told National Post the Royal Canadian Air Force began exploring blocking their flights in the spring and has since worked with government agencies and NAV Canada to consider options. So the reason this is important is because I think there was a story on National Truth and Reconciliation Day that Justin Trudeau went out surfing when he was in Kelowna. This story, I believe, has its origins because of Brian Passafume's deep autistic passion of checking in on flight logs and where the Prime Minister's flying. It's a great way to get stories, but it's like a once-in-a-year thing that it happens. This is why he's the best. So Justin Trudeau, he's noticing, he's going, hey, he just flew to Kelowna, but isn't there an event, like a native event that he just got invited to? And he said, no, so why is he flying to Kelowna? And let's check his itinerary. It says he's in Ottawa. That's really weird because it says that the flight tracker says that his plane's in Kelowna. Well, what the hell? We should get over there and see what's going on. And of course, Justin Trudeau was walking along the beach with his shirt tied around his hips and, just chilling out on Truth and Reconciliation Day. Holy hell, wow. Good thing I have a day off today. I didn't get invited to any Indigenous ceremonies on the first Truth and Reconciliation Day. Let's just fucking go for a mosey. This is a great time. So, obviously, we'd be losing out on stories like this if they ban tracking Trudeau's flights. I don't even understand the reason for it. They're citing security concerns. Has any prime minister ever been put in serious danger because their flights were being publicly logged? I don't think so. I don't think that's the case at all. Also, Justin Trudeau news, he blocked media from coming to his event and asking questions. So this is another chapter, another entry in Justin Trudeau's long list of shockingly dictatorial behavior. So the event states that it's a pooled media coverage opportunity, and according to the Kelowna Daily, Justin Trudeau, we can put the quote up on it here, the Kelowna Daily News, it says that Justin Trudeau allowed for journalists to enter, but did not allow for them to ask questions or face police consequences. You'd get escorted out because if you shout out a question, then you got to go. You're a journalist, you're asking questions too loud, you got to go. Of course, this was right after Justin Trudeau did another media event where he did take questions, in fairness, but it still reeks of something kind of more sinister, don't you think? I like the Prime Minister to take questions. I don't care where he is. I understand it was at like a day camp, whatever, he's playing with kids. You don't really have to say that, though. If the Prime Minister is playing with kids, you don't have to tell journalists to stop asking questions. Just here's what you do, Trudeau, because you're PR guy. I don't know if you care. I think you just don't care. So what you do, you just do that, say no questions right now, and then at the end, because you already took 10 minutes of questions earlier in the day, just take 2 or 3 at the end, and then be on your merry way. That's all you have to do, and you avoid this whole thing. People on Twitter are roasting you. But, enough about that. So that's about it for the show besides my joke segment. So I wrote some new jokes for you guys. Let's try them out this week. So I'm going to do the same thing I did last week. I'm going to come out this curtain and there's going to be canned laughter. So all right. Live from Montreal, it's Roberto Rachel Cruz Day. Awesome. Thanks, guys. Thank you. Toronto's Pearson Airport was listed as the second worst airport for flights this summer. Yeah, have you heard about this? Have you? The first worst airport was the Winnipeg Airport. Not because of flight delays or anything, but because passengers quickly realized, shit, we're in Winnipeg. Canadian passports were just rated the 8th most powerful passports in the world. Round of applause. Yeah, that's according to a recent study. Unvaccinated Canadian passports have also been listed as the best drink coasters. Can't use your passports. What the hell is that about? Isn't that weird? All right, this one's rough. I have to write 3. It's rules of 3s in comedies, right? The Roncesvalles Festival will go back to its original name of the Roncesvalles Polish Festival after outcry from the Toronto area community that Polish was removed from the name. Hear about this? This is big news happening in Canada. Organizers said that removing the Polish has historically been reserved for Adolf Hitler. Thank you so much for joining me on This Week in Canada.